I mean, he works his ass off. The guy can fight. He's a world champion, but just because you can fight and just because, like, it doesn't really mean, like, doesn't make you like a man, And there's these moments when, like, you see kind of like past, hey, I could fight. He works his ass off. Like,
Sean Khamzat just launched the most relentless campaign in UFC history to get a title shot. And Khamzat Chimaev's response? Absolutely genius. While Sean's been screaming on social media, posting daily callouts, and basically begging for this fight like his career depends on it, Khamzat did something that speaks way louder than any trash talk ever could. He disappeared into the gym and started training like the fight was already booked. No Twitter wars, no back-and-forth drama. Just pure, focused preparation that has everyone asking the same question. Does he know something we don't?
Sean Strickland, he's been saying some stuff in interviews about, he just didn't like your approach. Just why do you think he's saying that, and do you have a response?
I don't know, when I was there, they never said anything, When I leave the Vegas and when they stop my visa, he started to talk. When I come back, I'm in LA, bro. Come on. If it's something personal for you, just come. I'm here whenever you want.
Okay. Here's where this gets absolutely wild. The moment Sean's callouts intensified, training footage of Khamzat started surfacing everywhere. We're talking intense, grueling sessions that look like championship camp preparation. This isn't casual gym work. This is a man preparing for war. And the timing? Too perfect to be coincidental. Sources close to his camp say he's been pushing himself to the absolute limit, grinding through the kind of sessions that break most fighters. The footage shows him working on takedown defense counters, cardio that would kill normal humans, and grappling sequences specifically designed for someone who fights exactly like Sean Strickland. That's not random training. That's targeted preparation for a specific opponent.
On Strickland next. Guys, there's no debate. I had 24 hours to think about this. Because here's what I don't want to do. I got to tell you, as an authority figure in this sport, I don't want to pan Imanov. I don't want to do that. I respect him. I respect what he's done. I respect his patience. But Sean Strickland fought him in head-to-head competition. Now, a couple of things came out. I am behind the scenes, and I can tell you, guys tiptoe around Chimaev. Guys are scared of Chimaev. He has a presence. Sean Strickland said, man, I used to be in the gym with this guy. He's a punk. Ask the people that were there. Sean Strickland said, when I come into a gym, I go find the biggest, baddest dude, and that's who I spar with. When Chimaev comes in the gym,
But get this, when Sean called him soft and questioned his toughness, saying there's no chance Khamzat would actually fight him, Khamzat fired back with something that sent chills through the entire middleweight division. He told Sean to be patient, wait for his visa issues to get resolved, and then they'll communicate the only way that matters, not through social media posts or press conferences. Through their fists inside the octagon where real fighters settle their differences. That's the kind of quiet confidence that either comes from supreme self-belief or complete delusion. And based on what we've seen from Khamzat so far, it's definitely not delusion.
disrespected everything that Fluffy Hernandez did. Fluffy Hernandez beat 9 men in a row. If Fluffy Hernandez beat Sean Strickland, that would be 10 in a row. 10 is the biggest number in the history of the UFC that anybody's had to do to get a title shot, and that distinction belongs to Merab. But to remind you, Merab was offered a title fight after 7. So the point that I'm making, if Fluffy Hernandez would have won and he would have gotten a title, we're being very disrespectful to the 9 men that Fluffy beat. We're being very disrespectful to the opportunity that Fluffy should have had. And when you play this game, it's the ultimate poker hand. You're all in. Whatever you got is on the line. You got a belt, it's on the line. It doesn't matter if you're undefeated and this guy's lost 5 fights. It doesn't matter if you're ranked number 1 and he's ranked number 8. When you get in there, it's all on the line, winner take all. Sean Strickland took it. Sean Strickland.
Now here's where the expert analysis gets really interesting. Chael Sonnen spent an entire day breaking down this matchup from every possible angle, making sure his opinion wasn't influenced by personal relationships or hidden agendas in the fight game. And what he discovered about the psychology of this situation is fascinating. Chael talked about the aura Khamzat possesses when he's around other fighters in person. We're talking about grown men, elite athletes who fear nobody, and they react differently when Khamzat walks into a room. There's this palpable sense of dominance that commands immediate respect and attention. But here's the kicker. Sean Strickland has been publicly challenging that aura, claiming that while he seeks out the toughest sparring partners and the most brutal training sessions possible, Khamzat prefers easier rounds where he's not truly tested. That's a direct shot at everything Khamzat represents, coming from a guy known throughout the MMA world for his absolutely savage approach to training.
Now, I do want to say, I was with Khamzat last week on the Jackson podcast, and Khamzat Chimaev told me that he is 240 pounds, right? What do you weigh right now, Khamzat? What do you weigh? Come on.
You can keep it a secret if you want.
That is gigantic. That is a good weight for a heavyweight, let alone a middleweight that fights at 185 pounds, 84 kilos. That would be a 55-pound weight cut that he has to go through. And by the way, he didn't look fat. He looked to be in really good shape, and he's down there in Newport Beach, California, training, running on the beach every single day. The man is working out hard, but there's no talks of a title fight. In fact, I asked him, who will you be fighting? And he said, brother, I don't know.
Listen to this part carefully, because Kale breaks down why this fight matters on a level most people don't understand. When you look at any fighter's journey to championship contention, especially someone who's put in the grueling work, embraced all the physical risks, and systematically conquered every critical must-win fight along the way, you're not just looking at individual achievement. You're looking at a validation of everyone they've beaten. When you deny Sean his earned title shot, you're not just disrespecting him. You're devaluing every single opponent he's defeated, every obstacle he's overcome, every risk he's taken to reach this elite level. Kale cited the statistical rarity of extended winning streaks in UFC history, showing just how incredibly difficult it is to accumulate consecutive victories against top-level competition in this absolutely unforgiving sport. His point is undeniable. When a fighter risks everything in a high-stakes bout, puts their ranking and reputation on the line, and emerges victorious through dominant performance, that success has to mean something concrete in terms of title implications.
Certainly is some words, and Sean Strickland has beaten him before, beaten via decision. The reality is, who deserves it more? I don't know. Sean's only on a 1-5 win streak, but he is a former champion. Imavov hasn't done that, right? The reality is, Chimaev has got to fight one of them. I know he's talking about going up to 205, or he's thinking about going up to 205, and making 185 from 240 pounds will be very hard, okay? But I would love to see him in there with Strickland, certainly when he says that he choked him out multiple times, and his lightweight training partner choked him out a bunch of times. And then you've got Strickland calling him a Chechen and all this type of stuff, right? Talking a lot of shit, talking a lot of smack, not afraid to poke the bear, shall we say, right? That fight's got to happen. I want to see it. You want to see it. The whole world would love to see it, right? So I think he's got to stay at 185.
And here's where the bombshell information comes in. Michael Bisping just revealed something that changes everything about this potential matchup. He had a recent conversation with Khamzat, and the champion is currently walking around at a massive 240 pounds. 240. That's enormous for a middleweight who has to cut down to 185. We're talking about a 55-pound weight cut, which isn't just physically demanding, it's an absolutely punishing ordeal that severely impacts performance, health, and fighting ability. But here's what makes this even more interesting. Bisping confirmed that Khamzat isn't out of shape or getting lazy. He's training hard in Temecula, California, looking sharp and staying active. Yet there's no officially announced championship bout scheduled. He's the middleweight champion without a clear next opponent, carrying extra weight because he doesn't have a definitive fight date.
Contender do you think next for the title in your mind that could potentially have the most challenge to Khamzat out of the possible contenders right now?
Oh, it's hard to say. Like, I definitely think he has an argument now, especially because he's beaten Imavov and because of the way he put away Fluffy. But honestly, it's anybody's guess. You know, it's anybody's guess. The title fights and like contenders and that whole conversation is just so, random.
Bisping then dove into the complicated scenario involving the division's other top contenders, specifically mentioning Nasruddin Imavov, who's been absolutely tearing through competition with his dangerous, exciting style. Bisping readily admitted that Imavov represents a legitimate threat to everyone in that weight class right now. But then he posed the most logical question in this entire debate. Who has the greater claim to a title shot? The guy who's never beaten Sean, or Sean, who already defeated Imavov decisively when they fought? Add to that Sean's status as a former UFC champion, which brings tremendous credibility to his overall resume, and the argument becomes pretty clear. Sean kept returning to his fundamental premise throughout this entire discussion. Khamzat must fight one of the world's elite middleweights in his next defense, and the Sean bout is exactly what fans are demanding, specifically because of their obvious animosity and genuine personal dislike for each other.
There with Khamzat, man, and Sean Strickland's taking defense is pretty good, but we haven't seen him in there against. Like, would you say Fluffy and Khamzat, it's two different levels when it comes to the grappling? Would you say, like, in terms of the way, the strength, and yeah,
Absolute night and day. Like, having been in there with Chimaev and seen, and everyone who saw what he did to Dricus, like, there's not, mate, like, it's not the same. It is not the same.
But wait, it gets even more compelling. Robert Shawns, another absolute legend in the middleweight division with extensive championship experience, was asked directly whether Sean should be Khamzat's next opponent. Instead of dismissing the idea, which would have been easy coming from a former champion of his caliber, Whittaker actually endorsed it. He genuinely believes Sean holds a legitimate case for receiving this high-profile championship fight, particularly after his impressive victory over Strickland and his dramatic finish of Paulo Costa in his most recent contest. Those kinds of dominant displays capture widespread attention throughout the MMA community and command genuine respect from peers. Whittaker acknowledged the frustrating truth that UFC matchmaking is often unpredictable and not always determined by pure sporting merit. But when considering only Sean's recent performances and proven fighting ability, he feels Sean has positioned himself directly in the center of serious title contention.
Sean Strickland should be the next middleweight title shot in the division, and I'm going to tell you why in today's video. My name is James Lynch. So Sean Strickland getting a huge win last weekend at UFC Houston in the main event, taking out Anthony Fluffy Hernandez by knockout. It was a picture-perfect performance here from Strickland, getting the third round finish, stopping Hernandez and his 8-fight win streak, and solidified himself as a contender in the weight class. And right now, at the time we're talking, there is not a fight booked yet for Khamzat Chimaev. There's been a couple rumors out there, but you heard Strickland after his fight with Fluffy Hernandez. We'll play a little snippet of it here. He talks about what he wants next when Michael Bisping asks him, and Strickland doesn't hesitate, talks about Chimaev. We're going to watch that clip here real quick.
Next, Sean. I don't know, man. Chimaev probably gets off the bench here. I'd like a piece of that little Chechen Wolf. But you never know with him, bro.
Yeah, so you can see there, he wants this fight. And then to go even further, Strickland at his media scrum before, of course, he was cut off, which I'm not a fan of, talks about how he made Chimaev quit in training. Now, I'm not usually a fan of fighters revealing things in the gym. I think that's bad practice, but this is only...
Now here's where Whittaker's analysis gets really fascinating and slightly terrifying for Sean Strickland fans. When discussing the specific mechanics of how this fight would unfold inside the octagon, Whittaker acknowledged that Sean's defensive wrestling is genuinely strong and effective against the vast majority of opponents he's likely to face. But then he dropped this reality check. Grappling with Khamzat Chimaev is a completely different challenge altogether. It's a unique entity in the sport that operates on an entirely different level compared to normal UFC-level grappling. And Whittaker knows this from personal experience. He's actually competed against Khamzat, shared the cage with him, felt his pressure directly. He spoke about what Khamzat physically did to him during their fight, offering a graphic account of Khamzat's supreme grappling mastery and overwhelming control. His assessment was blunt. This is not the same caliber of grappling skill or physical pressure that Sean Strickland has ever encountered during his professional career. James Lynch, a respected voice in MMA media, has been consistently arguing that the next middleweight title fight should be Khamzat versus Sean Strickland, period. Lynch highlighted Sean's commanding knockout victory over Anthony Hernandez, calling that performance a conclusive turning point in Sean's career trajectory. Looking at the current divisional landscape, Sean effectively ended a frustrating losing streak against top competition, accomplishing this resurgence in a crucial main event spot that elevated his standing dramatically. Here's the timing element that makes this perfect. Khamzat currently has no fights planned or scheduled according to official UFC announcements, which puts his championship in an uncertain holding pattern. Sean moved strategically, immediately challenging Khamzat publicly right after securing his victory. And since there's no other clear number one contender waiting, all conditions look absolutely perfect for this fight to happen. Lynch then explored the possibility of Khamzat moving up to light heavyweight, highlighting a crucial fact. Khamzat only recently claimed the middleweight championship for the first time, but he hasn't had even a single opportunity to defend that title yet. In Lynch's view, planning an immediate switch to seek glory in a different weight division before defending what you currently hold is problematic. He firmly supports keeping Khamzat at 185 pounds, making sure he stays active, and establishes his legitimate championship legacy there first. Lynch called out the widespread hypocrisy in MMA discourse, emphasizing how quickly fans criticize other champions for inactivity or lack of defenses, then asking why the standards should be different here. Following Lynch's arguments, Brendan Schaub clearly asserted that the UFC must officially book Khamzat versus Sean Strickland as the immediate title defense, rejecting the idea of Imavov getting a shot since Sean already defeated him decisively. And get this final piece that ties everything together. Schaub pointed out that from a business perspective, Sean Strickland remains the significantly bigger star and draw, which is vital in the commercial fighting business. The UFC needs marketable stars, especially American ones, for strong pay-per-view numbers and mainstream attention. This specific matchup is ready to go immediately without complications. Sean emerged from his last fight nearly unscathed and in perfect health for a quick return. Schaub boldly predicted that if Sean were to defeat Khamzat, the UFC would have a huge American star on their hands. Sean is authentically himself at all times, never playing a character, and he silenced critics with his recent performance, looking sharper than he has in years. The compelling narrative is already established through their public interactions. The genuine animosity is real, not manufactured. The contrast in fighting styles is captivating. Sean's persistent forward pressure and sharp jab work against Khamzat's dominant grappling and brute physical force. So here's where we stand, two elite fighters who genuinely believe they're the best middleweight in the world, both standing firm in their pride and self-belief. The champion needs a challenger. The challenger has earned his shot through dominant performances and previous championship experience. The business case is rock solid. The athletic merit is undeniable. The fan demand is massive. Should there be any significant delay in booking this fight, the buzz and anticipation will fade. But if they book it now, it feels absolutely essential. The real questions that make this bout so compelling: can Sean withstand Khamzat's grappling for 5 championship rounds? Will Khamzat survive Sean's relentless pace and volume striking for 25 minutes? That's exactly why everyone's talking about this fight and why it needs to happen next. Drop your prediction in the comments below who takes this fight if it gets booked. If this breakdown helped you understand why this matchup makes perfect sense, smash that like button, subscribe for more MMA analysis, and hit the notification bell because this division is about to explode. I'll see you in the next one. But hold on, because there's something absolutely crucial we haven't talked about yet that could completely change how this fight plays out. And it has everything to do with Sean Strickland's recent mental transformation. If you've been following Sean's interviews over the past 6 months, you've probably noticed something different about his approach. The guy who used to rely purely on aggression and forward pressure has been talking about patience, about picking his spots, about fighting smarter instead of harder. This isn't the same Sean Strickland who would march forward throwing combinations until someone dropped. This is a calculated, evolved version who's been studying tape obsessively and working with some of the sharpest minds in the sport. Here's what makes this evolution terrifying for Khamzat. Sean's always had knockout power, but now he's combining that with tactical awareness that took years to develop. His recent sparring footage shows him working on lateral movement, something he never prioritized before. He's drilling specific counters for wrestlers who shoot low, practicing sprawls and uppercuts that could absolutely devastate someone coming in recklessly. And here's the kicker. He's been training with multiple high-level wrestlers specifically to prepare for this exact scenario. We're talking about guys who can replicate Khamzat's pressure and grappling style, giving Sean hundreds of rounds of experience against that exact fighting approach before he even steps into the octagon. But let's talk about something that nobody's mentioning in this whole debate. The psychological warfare aspect of this matchup is absolutely fascinating. Sean Strickland has built his entire career on getting inside his opponent's heads before the fight even starts. He's a master at finding psychological pressure points and exploiting them ruthlessly. But Khamzat? This is a guy who seems completely unaffected by mental games. He's faced death threats, political controversy, visa issues, weight cut disasters, and he just keeps showing up to fight. That creates this incredible dynamic where Sean's biggest weapon outside the cage might be completely useless against this particular opponent. And speaking of psychological elements, let's examine what happened when these two almost crossed paths at that press conference earlier this year. Multiple witnesses described the tension as absolutely electric. Sean was doing his usual intimidation routine, staring down everyone in the room, making his presence felt. But when Khamzat walked in, something shifted. Sean didn't back down, that's not in his DNA, but observers noted a change in his energy. It wasn't fear, but it was recognition. Recognition that he was looking at someone who operates on the same level of controlled violence that he does. That moment told us everything about what this fight would represent. Two apex predators finally getting the chance to settle who truly rules this division. Now here's where the technical breakdown gets really interesting, and this comes from some of the best coaches in the sport. Greg Jackson recently broke down what would happen if Sean can keep this fight standing for the majority of 5 rounds. His analysis was eye-opening. Sean's jab isn't just a scoring technique, it's a weapon designed to accumulate damage over time. We're talking about a sharp, consistent punch that lands clean and hard, round after round. Jackson pointed out that Sean's cardio advantage becomes more pronounced as fights progress into the championship rounds. While Khamzat has shown incredible explosiveness and finishing ability, we've never seen him push to the absolute limit in a 5-round war against someone who refuses to break. But here's the terrifying counterargument from John Danaher's recent podcast appearance. Danaher spent 20 minutes explaining why Khamzat's grappling presents problems that Sean has literally never encountered before. This isn't just about takedowns or ground control. This is about grip strength that can control your entire body, pressure that makes breathing difficult, and positional awareness that turns every scramble into a potential finish. Danaher used specific examples from Khamzat's previous fights, showing how he creates angles and leverage that seem to defy physics. According to Danaher's analysis, Sean's defensive wrestling, while solid, is built to handle conventional takedown attempts. Khamzat doesn't shoot conventional takedowns. He creates grappling situations that happen so quickly and from such unexpected angles that even experienced grapplers get caught off guard. Here's something that absolutely blew my mind when I discovered it. The betting odds for this hypothetical matchup have been fluctuating wildly over the past month. Initially, Khamzat opened as a massive favorite, which makes sense given his championship status and undefeated record. But as Sean's campaign intensified and more people started analyzing the stylistic matchup, those odds began shifting dramatically. Sharp money started coming in on Sean, not from casual fans, but from professional bettors who make their living analyzing fight matchups. That kind of line movement tells you that people who really understand this sport see something in Sean's chances that the general public might be missing. And get this, the international implications of this fight are absolutely massive. Sean represents American MMA in its purest form, blue-collar work ethic, relentless pressure, and the kind of personality that either inspires you or drives you crazy. Khamzat represents the new wave of international talent that's been dominating UFC divisions across multiple weight classes. This isn't just about two individuals competing for a title. This is about what direction the sport is heading and who's going to lead that charge. The winner doesn't just get a championship belt. They get to represent their entire fighting philosophy on the biggest stage in mixed martial arts. But let's talk about something that could completely change this entire discussion. Dana White's recent comments about big announcements coming soon have everyone speculating, and multiple sources are hinting that this Sean Strickland versus Khamzat Chimaev fight might already be in advanced negotiations. The timeline makes perfect sense. Sean's ready to go immediately, having taken minimal damage in his last fight. Khamzat needs to defend his title before any talk of moving up to light heavyweight. The pay-per-view numbers would be absolutely massive given the genuine animosity and contrasting personalities. If Dana's teasing what we think he's teasing, this fight could be announced within the next 2 weeks. Here's what makes this potential announcement even more exciting. The venue options being discussed are absolutely perfect for this kind of matchup. We're hearing whispers about a potential Las Vegas main event, which would give purists the home crowd advantage he thrives on. But there's also talk about taking this fight international, possibly to London or even somewhere in the Middle East, which would create an entirely different atmosphere. The location choice could actually influence the fight's outcome, especially for someone like Khamzat, who feeds off crowd energy and uses it to maintain his relentless pace throughout 5 rounds. And finally, here's the element that makes this whole situation absolutely perfect from a storytelling perspective. Both fighters are at the exact right point in their careers for this matchup to happen. Sean's coming off career-defining performances that have re-established him as elite competition. He's hungry to reclaim championship status and prove that his previous title reign wasn't a fluke. Khamzat's looking to establish his legacy as a dominant champion rather than just a talented prospect who got lucky once. They're both in their physical primes, both completely healthy, and both have everything to gain from this fight. The winner becomes the undisputed king of the middleweight division. The loser faces serious questions about their future at the highest level of the sport. Those are the stakes that create legendary fights, and that's exactly what we're looking at here.